Welcome to a soccer pub edition of Bet the Edge on Thursday, April 13th. Thanks to everyone watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. Coming up, we're breaking down key matchups in the Premier League this weekend, including Chelsea and Manchester United as favorites on quick turnarounds after Champions League play. We'll also handicap Manchester City overtaking Arsenal as the odds-on favorite to win it all this year, as well as hand out our best bets for this weekend. Drew, how was your night last night? Any great bets? You smashed that over. I do remember you smashed it over in that first game.
Needed that miracle three-pointer by Fred VanVleet to end the first half to get that, by the way. But you know what? It shouldn't have been a sweat, Brad. There was a lot of missed free throws in that game. That should have cruised over 220. Yeah, that was just a high-intensity game. Who knew the Bulls had that comeback in them? DeMar DeRozan's daughter screaming during the free throws was like an added level of what's happening here. This is crazy. And just in general, like the energy level and the quality of basketball we've gotten through the 4 play-in games has been awesome with an exclamation point. And if we sacrifice a little bit of quality during the regular season to have this great of a playoff experience, then I'm all for it. This has been very, very cool. And I can't wait for the next 2 play-in games. Like this is just as good as you could ask for. So I'm fired up.
Dude, I'm stoked. Sitting on that Thunder to make the playoffs plus 765 ticket. Listen, I didn't think the Thunder were going to win that game last night. And then I was actually a little shocked to see they're only like plus 145 dogs against the Timberwolves, which means Vegas is not going to hang a big number. Gives me a little bit more hope.
I think that's going to come in too. I think the OKC's the hot side there. Timberwolves aren't going to, they aren't going to all of a sudden look the part. Too many missed players, too one-dimensional, and the Thunder have a little mojo.
Yeah, I was going to decide if I was going to do just take my winnings from Thunder and then put them back on Thunder again, but not going to do it. Just going to ride my ticket. But let's segue over and bring in Paul Tenorio of The Athletic. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the clubs on a quick turnaround from Champions League play. We have Chelsea versus Brighton. Chelsea plus 160 on the 3-way money line. Draw set at plus 230. This is Saturday here. What are you expecting from this match?
Yeah, I mean, typically I would say like new manager bounce. And, Chelsea hasn't been that bad on short turnarounds this season coming off of Champions League games earlier in the year, especially. But Chelsea's a mess right now. And this is a new manager bounce. I don't know. Does it count as a new manager bounce? Because it's an old manager who's now in as a new manager. I really don't love the odds on Chelsea to win here. I feel like the struggles there are significant and they are across managers, right? They can't score goals. They only have scored 2 goals in a game 6 times since October. That's 25 plus games that they've just not been able to find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think that Lampard coming in and the way that they were talking after the Real Madrid loss, we didn't know Madrid was this good. And it just, right now, it just feels like problematic on so many levels. And, I have real concerns of them being able to get a result. So, if anything, I look at this as maybe a draw potential here, but I really am low on Chelsea right now.
Yeah, I think we share that sentiment. And the fact that Brighton just absolutely had their way with Chelsea the first time these teams played back in October, still in the back of my head as well. Brighton, of course, coming away with a 4-1 victory there. So cannot get involved without a bigger price on Chelsea. We agree. Speaking of the new manager bounce, Nottingham Forest bringing a new man to town to take on Manchester United. Nottingham Forest finds themselves in a little bit of distress down at the bottom of the table. Meanwhile, Man U has been all over the map this season, as low as we thought, at the beginning to, looked certainly like they were going to get to the top 3. I don't know how to price this team. I'll be honest with you. What do you make of this Nottingham Forest Man U match on Sunday?
I mean, obviously, like I'm interested to see what happens in Europa League to kind of see what the format. But United's been pretty darn good of late. I mean, they've got 14 wins in their last 19 games. I think that they look much more organized. They have an identity. I expect them to kind of finish the season strong. I feel like they're in a positive way and they're trending in the right way. I just feel like for so long with Manchester United, it was the volatility you're talking about. Felt like it was going to be extended, right? That they couldn't ever get a grasp on who they wanted to be, how they wanted to play. My one concern is Rashford's injury. He's out in the midweek game. Is he going to be back? It doesn't sound like he's going to be back at all for the weekend. He's the guy who kind of changes the way they play up front. He's the go-to goal scorer on this team. So without him in the lineup, I want to see what they look like and kind of see if that confidence dips at all. But Forest is in a bad way. I think that, this is not a team that I think is going to benefit from a new manager. I just think I'm very, very low on them overall. And I think in this matchup, I feel pretty good about Manchester United getting a result.
Pretty interesting matchup for me here. From a betting perspective, we have to remember, Forest have only lost once in their past 11 matches at the City Ground. So new manager bounce and all, I still don't think they win here, but I do see them finding the back of the net. They find a way to score at home. Tough place to play, but at minus 160, I'm probably not all that interested. But a price on a hot team that I'm very interested is Newcastle. So it's Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Newcastle's plus 110 on the three-way money line here. Can Newcastle continue their hot form of play?
I mean, this matchup scares me in general because it's two teams that are flying right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very confident. The fans are in it. They're rolling. The managers have come in to these two teams and kind of changed the identity around them. Both of them are in it for spots in Europe. Both of them look like they're building towards something bigger. Obviously, Newcastle has won 5 straight games. I think it's just one of those where I feel a little bit nervous picking against a team one way or the other who's really been looking strong. When I look at these numbers, I feel like, considering Villa is unbeaten in 7 straight, like plus 250 feels like a decent number on them. But Newcastle's been so good that I don't think that you can just confidently lay money there. So I don't know. For me, Newcastle stands out as the team that I like here. But I think I'm going to lean towards plus 240 on the draw just because I feel like this is a game that's going to be open to an extent when you have two confident teams. No one's going to be in a shell. They're going to be going out looking for goals. And these are both teams capable of scoring. And so I think this is going to be a game where, I don't know. I lean a little bit more towards Newcastle, but this is one of those matchups that just scares me because also, like, as a fan of the game, I like sitting back and enjoying a game. And when I lay money on something, I never get to enjoy it the same way.
Sure.
I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm like, man, this is like a game between two teams in really good form. I want to enjoy this, and I'm going to end up betting on the thing that makes me hate myself the entire time I'm watching it.
That makes sense.
Any other way to capture a little bit of value on Aston Villa's form? I see that they are almost plus 800, plus 700 to finish in the top 6. It doesn't feel like they're that far off. And honestly, if if Brighton doesn't get a point against Chelsea, if Brentford's got ground to make up, Liverpool is struggling right now. Like, is Brighton realistically, is Aston Villa realistically a shot at 7-1 to finish top 6?
Yeah, I think so. I would warn, though, when I was going back and looking at the form here, when you look at what Newcastle's done in these games, I mean, they're beating some good teams. Villa, when you look at these last 7 games, they've had wins against 4 of the worst teams in the Premier League. So, that's good for building confidence and making, the vibes pick up. But I think that there's a little bit of wiggle room here to say, are they that good or are they beating the teams that they should beat? And I think it's a little bit more toward the latter, and that's understandable for where they are in their build right now. But that's the one thing that's got me a little bit hesitant. Like, I think we're going to learn a lot more about Villa in this game than we have in a lot of the run over the last 7 where they haven't lost.
Yeah, it's an interesting Aston Villa team here. If you look at the advanced metrics, numbers say that Newcastle should be able to score goals on them. But the numbers said that Aston Villa probably shouldn't have won those past 5 matches that they've won. They're a team that kind of overplays their advanced numbers. But let's kick it over to a question that everyone's gonna want to know the answer to. So now Manchester City minus 137 has become the favorite to win the Premier League title over Arsenal. Arsenal's at plus 110. Do you agree with them being on the odds-on favorite now?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm biased on this too because one of my best friends is a huge Arsenal fan and also like a big numbers guy, and he feels on both sides. Like, as an Arsenal fan, no way are we going to win the league, right? Like, it's just a pure Arsenal fan approach to it.
Sure.
But when you look at what Man City's doing right now, the way that they're playing, the squad that they have, I think that there is I think the odds that Arsenal drops points are higher right now than Manchester City. And you look at what's left. I mean, they'd have to get 2 results on the road against top teams to kind of hold that spot. And when you're just straight up looking at these 2 teams in your handicap, who's more likely to miss out on that key game, that key result where you need a draw or you need those 3 points, I think it's Arsenal. This makes a lot of sense to me. I think it confirms what every Arsenal fan feels. I think just straight up based on kind of where these teams are, when I look at the schedule coming up, I feel like City understands that they're kind of in the driver's seat here. Like they might not be in first place right now, but they know if they get the results that they're going to win the title.
Yeah, game in hand certainly helps. Your Gunner friend, what's his temperature on Arsenal hammers? Is he nervous at all that they go to London? And they're obviously not a huge travel trip, but London Stadium is a little bit of a hostile place to play. The Hammers going to have a chance to take a point on them.
I can't base it on my Arsenal friend because I literally, if you read just my text messages during any Arsenal game this season, you would think that they haven't won a game at all, and not that they're sitting in first place. So he definitely thinks that there's a chance Arsenal could drop points, but that's his take every single week. Look, I just talk negatively about Arsenal like they're a bad side or something like that. They're not. They're a very good team. I think that they're going to get a result on the weekend as they should. I think they'll get 3 points. I just think Man City is at another level right now. We saw that the other night. And I do think there are a couple games when I look at what Arsenal's got left this season where I could see them tripping up a little bit. And I feel like this is going to turn into one of those Pep well-oiled machines in Manchester City where the form has now taken off and we're not going to see a drop.
Well, that's music to my ears. I'm holding a big old ticket on Man City at plus money that I'm a little surprised was available as late in the season as it was. But that said, still a long way to go. And speaking of a long way to go, there are a lot of teams who are probably looking at their place in the table and feeling a little bit helpless right now because we're running out of time, that to make up the gap and get out of relegation right now. Nottingham, Leicester, and Southampton all sitting with fewer than 30 points. Realistically, it looks like you're going to need about 30 to avoid relegation at a minimum. Is there a read that you have in terms of who ultimately will not be in the Premier League next year?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to play spoiler to this part of the segment earlier, but I really think Forest is going to go down. When you look at some of the opponents that they've got coming up, Manchester United, at Liverpool, home against Arsenal at a time that Arsenal, like we just talked about, is going to be fighting for dear life to stay in the race to win the title. It's not at Chelsea, which usually you'd say like that's a very difficult game to go get a result. Right now, again, we're trying to figure out what Chelsea is going to look like under Lampard and whether they can get things righted. I just look at that and I think Forest, when I look at what Leicester's got left, they've got Leeds and Everton, 2 games where, it's going to be like you'd normally say those are bad teams, but those are teams all fighting to stay up. So those games, the intensity level is going to be really, really high, but I like Leicester in both of those games as well. Okay. They do have Man City and Liverpool. So I look at these numbers and I just think, for me, I guess like when you look at it as far as the best ticket, like I could see like Leicester over Forest. I think for putting my money down on it, like I think it's a better bet. But I just look at Forest's schedule and I think they're going to go down. And it's a real shame because they've spent so much money to try to stay up. But I don't love the squad.
Yeah, if you had a free play between Everton, Bournemouth, and Leeds, who's the third team going down?
Leeds.
Yes, music to my ears.
I will say, like I had some friends that were discussing before the season, and they threw some money down on Leeds to go down at the beginning of the season on a much better number than this. And I think that I just feel like they're destined for it. Partly because I've been watching them the whole year, thinking they're going to go down, and then they have these little results that keep them up. But I like Leeds, and I even like Leeds at this plus 275 number as a team that could go down.
Betting Leeds in my preseason preview, which is on NBCSportsEdge.com, was probably one of my favorite things to do. I hope it comes home. Let's move over and talk about the U.S. men's national team. The question that I've probably asked a million people, but Paul, after reading your content this week, I need to know, who do you think should be the next U.S. men's national team coach? And what are their thoughts on their match against Mexico?
Well, first, I think it's kind of been really weird for me. I'm writing about this right now. Like Jesse Marsch turning down 2 Premier League jobs after getting sacked by Leeds, turned down Southampton, now turned down Leicester. I kind of understand turning down Southampton. Like you're going down, the young players on that team haven't performed to the level we thought they would. You're trying to figure out, what is this squad going to be like? Are you going to be able to spend in the championship now to stay up? Leicester, though, I think is a very good job, whether you stay up or whether you go down. Like that's a team that's going to be fighting to bounce right back. So I'm like, why is Jesse turning these jobs down? I think it might be because he's looking a little bit down the road and saying, I want that U.S. national team job. I want to be managing this U.S. team at a home World Cup. And in some ways, he's a really good fit for this team. They're obviously, he had half of them at Leeds, with Aronson and Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams all playing for Leeds when he was there. But, very athletic team. They can run, they can press. I'm a little bit worried about Jesse with the U.S. team because he hasn't shown his ability to evolve as a manager. I don't think as much as I would like to see with what happened at Leipzig, then what happened at Leeds. He is an evangelist to the old Red Bull system. Play against the ball, lose it even in key areas of the field on purpose. But I would say right now, Jesse is the favorite to be the next U.S. men's national team coach. The dark horse candidate that I'm very interested in, that I would love for the U.S. to take a real run at, is Patrick Vieira. I thought it was very harsh of him to get the sack at Palace. I think he's did a very good job there. I understand that there was a panic towards the bottom of the table because it's so tight down there. And sometimes people think, okay, we just need to move on from the manager, try to get that balance to stay up. There's so much money on the line. But I think Patrick Vieira would be a great fit for the U.S. He's coached in MLS before, so he's got a good understanding of the domestic system. He knows many of these young players. He would command respect in that locker room immediately based on his playing days. And he's been a successful manager in Europe as well. So those are the 2 names I'm watching out for the most. I really think Vieira would be a good shout.
I don't think I've heard the Vieira one yet, which I was a firm believer him at Palace, but after he got sacked and then Roy Hodgson just totally unlocked this attack of Palace, I feel like they might have made the right decision. We'll see. Only time will tell. When I was reading your article, I did notice that only 2 non-MLS players will be playing for the men's national team against Mexico. Do you think that a result here is something that we're actually after, or we're kind of just scouting out the talent on our team and seeing what fits?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a weird game because Mexico's roster will be the same. This game's falling outside of a FIFA window, which means clubs are not obligated to release players, and so that's why it's almost all made up out of MLS players. Serginho Dest is here because he's not playing for Milan right now at all. Hasn't played basically since January, and then one other player, Alan Senor, coming from the Mexican League, because that's where Mexico's team basically is largely going to be based out of. So it's going to be tough until we see Mexico's roster to kind of really have an idea of what this game is going to be like. But for me, when I looked at this team and I don't know, I'm thinking right now, whatever Mexico's roster looks like, I'm going to like the money on that side of this equation because I think this is a really good opportunity for Anthony Hudson to try some of these younger players who don't have experience. Guys like Josh Winder, who's 17 years old, playing in the USL. Hudson's comments yesterday sounded like we just want him to be in camp. Maybe they aren't going to play him, but why not? Like, these are the games to put him out there. There's no stakes. Give him a chance to learn. He's got a chance to play a part in the cycles going forward. Set to go to Benfica in the summer window. So if he's trying out some of these younger players, that always leads to, I think, bigger struggles on the attacking end because the chemistry is lacking and you don't really have a go-to attacking player on this team. Jordan Morris is in good form in MLS, but he's going to be on the wing for the U.S. So I don't even know Mexico's roster right now, and I like Mexico. So that's fun.
That makes total sense. Thank you, Paul. Before we let you go, can you let us know what content you're working on and where people can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can always find me on Twitter at Paul Tenorio, Instagram at Paul Tenorio Soccer. And at The Athletic, we're always working. My coverage is around all things American soccer, Major League Soccer, the many Americans playing abroad, obviously, in the U.S. men's national team. So Hopefully people go and subscribe to The Athletic. We've got a really strong team of American reporters, but then 100 reporters in England as well covering the Premier League. And so some really good stuff there. For those of you looking for inside information on some of these teams we were talking about today, The Athletic's the place to find it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul Tenorio of The Athletic. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thanks so much, guys.
Guys, this is your reminder to download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster and get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. You know, it's also available on my phone. These bets that we are about to place this weekend, Drew, I took a little peek over at yours, and I'm going to say I'm a little shocked at the price because my mouth's drooling when I see it. Can you please tell me what you're on?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know this, but Roy Hodgson has completely unlocked the attack of Crystal Palace, as quoted by someone, quite smart in the space. It's straightforward. The market is still a little slow to react to the fact that they're playing an entirely different brand of soccer. And Crystal Palace hitting the board once, extremely likely in this game. Hitting the board twice, I think, is a realistic possibility. Now, if they get 2 goals, you would think, why not just play them on the money line? Why not play them draw no bet? It's -115. Well, I'm a little worried that now that there's a little bit of tape out there, some scouting is going to be some ways that you can counter on Crystal, based on their aggressive style. And if Southampton come away with 2 goals and it's ultimately a draw, I'm going to be pulling my hair out. Like, I knew that Palace was going to score, and yet here I am with no money in my hand. So instead, we're going to go with a team total over on Palace of 1.5 goals, and that is at +175. Now, that is like a type of price that reflects their entire season's performance as opposed to who they are now in terms of just form, in terms of attacking style. And so I think Palace can hit the board twice, and I think they can get that over 1.5 goals home. +175 is the price, and I'm going to be enjoying that one.
I like that bet. And one thing that's changed the most is Palace is okay to attack on the road. Wasn't so much the case with Vieira, but I do want to say one thing. If Edouard is out and you guys like playing player props, look at Jordan Ayew over 1.5 shots. I'd imagine it'll probably be priced around -110, which is cool. If you don't like, laying the juice, you can also take Elise over 1.5 shots. It's probably going to be priced -105. You can parlay those together for pretty good money there. I like their shot props. I have them pegged for about 11 shots. As my floor against Southampton, because Southampton will press in this match at home, leaving a lot of opportunities for those very quick attacking players to get out and get shots. Let's talk about my bet. I have not given out a corner prop in quite some time. For those who have followed me for a while, I consider myself the corner prop king because I love corners. Manchester City versus Leicester City. Manchester City team total over 7.5 corners, -102. I'd shop that price around. It's different all over the places. So this is just one of those situations where the only option that Leicester City have on the road against Manchester City is to sit deep, absorb pressure. And even if they don't want to sit deep and absorb pressure on the road, it's something they're going to be forced into. If you look at the matches that Leicester City have played against quality sides, especially on the road, they've had to sit deep. And they've absorbed something like 11, 12, 13 corners in that match. And what's really brilliant about Manchester City is they're not a team that goes looking for corners as much as they go looking for set pieces. But playing in that attacking third so often gives them so many corners, so many free corners. And then you have guys on that team. I could name anybody on that roster from the midfield to the attack who want to get shots up. They want to shoot. They want to see their name in lights because like Paul said earlier, this team is humming along. I think this corners bet is pretty tasty. I played it a little bit different too to get some more plus money. I took over 6.5 corners and parlayed it with Manchester City money line. Not all books will let you do that, so I didn't give it out on the show, but I just think this is going to be a fun one. I have them around 5 at halftime, which means as long as they're not up 6-0, we should get 3 more in the second half.
That's a fun handicap, and honestly, I feel like you're probably just keeping your corner props in your back pocket and betting them yourself because you don't want to give away the edge. But I'm glad you you let the people in on a little bit of the scoop, and I'm definitely going to be counting corners in that one. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and Manchester City, you know, he's they're a pep team. They're going to run a perfect formation for corners. So, Drew, as always, this was fun. And for everyone watching, don't forget to check out NBC Sports Edge for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us.